There are 9 steps to building an argument. It's the standard 3-part argument, uses space for argument and not facts, narrows a thesis, makes a claim, provides evidence, presents effectively, avoids logical fallacies, and establishes how to be credible before deciding whether or not to address feelings. The standard 3-part argument includes 1 introduction, 3 different pieces of evidence, and 1 conclusion. Let's now look at step number 2. Use your space and your time for argument, and not for facts. We can now look at step number 3. A good thesis is a narrow thesis, and it uses qualifiers like typically, generally, usually, or on average. Too broad a thesis is, for example, too much debt is bad for the country. A better thesis is increased corporate taxes might discourage investment in the transportation sector. Let's look at the 4th step, making a claim. You should make a claim about a fact or a definition, cause and effect, value, or solutions or policies. Let's look at step number 5, providing evidence. You need to provide 2 types of evidence, of the claim you make and of the credibility you have. For claims, start with evidence, either first-hand or second-hand. For credibility, you need to answer the following questions. Who is the author? How recent is the source? What is the author's purpose? And what type of sources does your audience value? Let's look at step number 6, presenting effectively. An effective presentation includes presenting the claim, the evidence, an explanation of why or how the evidence supports the claim, and the foundation, which is more logic or reasoning as necessary, as well as counterclaims and rebuttal of those counterclaims. Let's look at step number 7, avoiding logical fallacies. Logical fallacies is a representation of their own, but for the time being, we'll make do with the following. Avoid a slippery slope argument, hasty generalization, assuming that if A occurred after B, then B caused A, the genetic fallacy, that is to say, the origins of a person or idea determines its worth, including the conclusion in the claim, repeating rather than proving an argument, making either-or arguments, making attacks on the person, not the argument, appealing to emotion, or diverting attention from your own argument. We're nearly there. Let's look at step number 8, how to be credible. It's one of the truisms of making an argument that you're only as credible as your sources are reliable. You need to state the opposing position accurately, establish common ground with the audience, make the argument easy to follow, and, as always, proofread. And now for step number 9, deciding whether or not there's a place for feelings in your argument. Traditionally, feelings are only used to legitimize the argument or to illuminate the truth in some way. However, if you are particularly committed, or passionate, or angry or sad, it's always best to say so explicitly, and in this case, address the elephant in the room. You've seen these steps many times already, but I'm going to repeat them. Make a standard 3-part argument. Use space for argument and not fact. Narrow your thesis. Make a claim. Provide evidence. Present effectively. Avoid logical fallacies. Make sure you're credible. And address the question of whether or not to mention feelings. If you build an effective argument, you can move easily from the classroom to the war room to the boardroom.